this region from having a lot of very proficient Scyther players, right? Peru has one, CACM has one, NESUS is probably the best Scyther player in LATAM North, and so anytime you see LATAM, expect to see a Scyther either being picked or being banned, encountered nonetheless. But here we go, Zero, Spinal, CACM in our Grand Finals draft number 1, ready to go.
I could not be more excited for the chaos that's about to unfold, and already Spinal might be listening in because they're saying, Scizor, get out of here. That means no Scyther because they know what Reggie can do. Once again, they are targeting Reggie. They have already opted to get rid of Gengar too. Mega Evolution are still available for both sides of these teams, as Mega Evolutions might be running wild.
Yeah, Mega Evolutions, EX Pokemon, they are ready to be selected. A very different draft strategy for Spinal in the previous Losers Final set, where they were banning out a lot of pink, well, I guess Slowbro's a pink Pokemon. A lot of supportive Pokemon for their enemy team here, but Brave Bird, wow, take a look at this. Not the flying type Pokemon that you were talking about before, Zero, but it is a flying type Pokemon. Nonetheless, it is a bird.
I mean, the fact that Reggie is taking this so early tells me that they were worried because they did watch Spinal, and Vin Diesel does play Talonflame. So now you're taking away 3 pivotal pieces away from Reggie. Those are the 3 Pokemon that, at least in the INGAGE Ultra Series, we have seen him play. It's either Scyther, Gengar, or Talonflame. And now knowing that Vin Diesel does play that Pokemon, they just said, we need to take this as soon as possible. Pure going to be going on an ace of their own in Snorlax, big Snorlax believer, while Vin Diesel going to be taking the Mimikyu for a lot of bursty damage.
Yeah, I think Talonflame is honestly like a power move. Like, I don't think I ever see this Pokemon being first picked by any team, let alone a speedster being first pick. I think maybe, you know, Leafeon could be like a first pick.
Right.
Could we be saying, oh, he was hovering over the arena for like a good 2 seconds, and we could have had it there for a moment there. But UNGAGE is going to be pulling out not the regular Lucario, but the Mega Lucario with that Lucario Dite. I think that's what it's called. Mega Stone coming out to play.
Yeah, Mega Stone in full effect for UNGAGE. He might be an Unk, and he is in fact an OG, going back all the way to Season 1 when he was part of IX Gaming. Flareon's, though, picking up the ace that I was talking about in Inteleon. Now, for Frank here, picking up the Latios is actually really huge. They've been able to do so well here this entire weekend with it. If they get their stacks correctly on the Eon stacks, they can do massive amounts of damage. And surprisingly enough, Texas was able to pick up the Latios, so that we might see the Eon twins play a little bit part. Of course, their passive ability, when they're both on a team, you can teleport to one another, so increases the movement just a smidge more. And JL picking up the Mr. Mime.
This is a very similar draft in the winners finals between these two teams. CACM really playing around the Eon twins, but it makes a lot of sense, honestly. You look at Spinal's team, they make a very strong presence in the front line. They don't do a whole lot of damage. The Mega Lucario definitely, but like kind of lower DPS for the Mimikyu. I could see a world where Mimikyu goes play rough here to be more of like a speedster type Pokemon, because these Pokemon, they'll stay in the front line for a very long period of time, but you know, the Latios and Latias, they love Pokemon in the front line because they can continually build and use their abilities on those Pokemon, building up those Eon stacks to scale into the late game. And once they have more than 100 for Latios and 125 for Latios, those 2 Pokemon are one-shotting Pokemon on the enemy team very easily and with point-and-click abilities. Fine.
Yeah, those damage is just going to hurt just a tad bit, and having the twins together just means also with the kind of recent balance patches that Latias has gotten, yes, the Dragon Tier and everything got a little bit nerfed, but also just as equally though, the fact that it's able to even get those stacks earlier on at level 4 instead of level 5 on its initial release has made this Pokemon kind of like a pseudo attacker slash supporter. But let's get into it. It's grand finals time. Spinal is over here on your purple side. You have CACM on your orange side, and they do have a 1 game advantage and this best of 5 here at the INGAGE Ultra Series.
All comes down to this. INGAGE Ultra Series coming at you, coming to an end. 2 days, mind you. A whole lot of Pokemon Unite getting ready for the Regional League qualifiers in a couple of, actually not even a couple of weeks, but next week is your regional qualifiers for your twins. Gonna hang out in the top path, and here comes that Mega Lucario. They got a lot of points in their pockets early. I don't know if they're stacking, but it's gonna be difficult with 9 in the pocket.
A 9 in the pockets indeed. JL's taking some damage. Reggie's already here. They're going very aggressive. UNGOG able to live just a little bit longer though. And they do finally have Vin available again to be able to defend it. Very close call moving forward, but you got to be careful there. You don't want to get caught out by Vin Diesel's Shadow Claws.
Pretty conservative early game. Here comes the bird on the screen. It'll mimic you, honing those claws on the shadow claws on the birds. Here comes a 4-player push, but a 4-player defend as well. They don't have any Eon stacks. Actually, the Eon building abilities at the moment here. This is an aggressive push. Basically, 3 attackers and a Fletchinder in the top path. Defenders just holding it out in the bottom lane.
Yeah, defender holding it down, and here comes OG. Still hasn't reached that level 5. Charge Beam's going to go in, try to create a little bit of shred. Reggie's being very aggressive. They want to get a KO, but they might get KO'd by themselves. The barriers are able to be caught. Thanks to JL, they're able to flock together. That bird got clipped a little early, and right now Ramna is just having a little fun with Flareons, trying to take away any EXP so Flareons cannot evolve.
Actually, a really interesting adaptation there by Spinal. Previously, Infamous Gaming also did this as well. They went for a late 4-player push onto the top tier 1 goal zone. They left 3 members in the top path, got a really nice KO onto the Fletchinder, and then evacuated out of there. So a really nice adaptation by Spinal. I don't know if it was just for LATAM as a region, because IF Gaming did it before, or if it was an adaptation for CACM in the winners final.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. You got to be able to adapt and move. Talonflame is on the prowl now. Bravebird going in immediately. They wasted no time. JL able to eject. Tried to get a confusion off. Didn't want to make sure they got the KOs. 58 to a big old goose egg for the side of Spinal. But Spinal right now has been taking a lot of advantage. And Reggie does seem a little bit more aggressive than we've seen them. Yes, they do tend to play aggressively, but sometimes they might get fit. And Spinal is kind of preparing for that.
UNGOG got to be very careful here, missing out on the medium match. Here comes the Dragon Pulse, but here comes Vin Diesel with the Shadow Sneak as well. Bravebird landing on some Natus. Cheers to them. My favorite wild Pokemon, mind you. But here we go. First Reggie's on the field. 0 to 58. CACM up by about 60, and Spinal sending 4 to the top.
Vin is closing in on their Unite move. They're going to go ahead and start ripping away this Regieleki. They have OG. They have Flareons locking in, charging it up, and it's Vin Diesel who now lands the Shadow Sneak. They're going in. They get a quick KO. That's a big old boost there, and now the Regieleki is finding its way downtown, quickly going in. Nobody there from CACM to even block it, which means OG is going to have an easy opportunity to get those stacks up.
Doing some curls at the top path. The Latios in its face. Can't do enough to stop that Pokemon there. Level 7 on OG. Still need 2 levels to get that Mega Stone online. Regirock brought down to less than 25%. And here comes a Brave Bird. Should get an easy confirmation there. Regirock in the bottom path. Not a Regieleki, so at least Reggie stay conserved for this first rotation. 51 to 73. A fairly conservative start for both teams. It's going to be in favor for Spinal as their Pokemon starts to scale. Level 9 almost for that Inteleon, and more importantly, almost level 9 on the Lucario.
Wow, that barrier ended up biting JL back because Reggie was there. They said, hey, I might not have a rock tomb, but I got a wall. I could use this. And now the wall goes up. This is more of a defensive way to tactic to be able to get Reggie the stacks that they need to be able to get up. Great move all around for CACM. Frank needs to be able to get all those Eon stacks to be able to do massive amounts of damage. But like you said, Draku, they are a little bit more conservative than we've seen both of these teams be. We have made it to grand finals, so both teams know what's on the line.
CACM actually denied Spinal for additional wild Pokemon. They had enough points to break the tier 1 goals. OG gets caught out in a rock tomb and make that a tomb for that Mega Lucario. They're going to be heading back to the Pokemon Center for a few more seconds. Here comes CACM pushing onto the tier 1 goal zone. Really nice heavy slam, catches a couple block, pushing them back over to the left side of the field. As their Spy Vision and Play With Me puts a blanket over that Talonflame. I think that Talonflame also went into its Unite move. CACM, do they even have enough points here? 40 points by the Latios, but they're going to be pushed back as the Mega Stone comes online, and Mega Lucario is forced back to the left side and immediately back to the Pokemon Center. The Crustle getting a KO streak of 2.
Ranma doing a great job defending, holding things down, but just as equally, Pure's doing the exact same thing for their team. They've been so good at getting behind enemy lines, putting up these blocks, but it does look like CACM is coming out a little bit more of a winner on this time. OG has to go back, retreat as quick as they can, and now Ranma and the rest of the members of CACM were able to converge fully, 193 to 88. Just such a good offensive prowess coming out of CACM.
First tower going over to our LATAM North team. Reggie Ice going over to them as well as what I called earlier the Walmart Kyogre buff going over to LATAM North. I was calling that earlier. That was kind of funny. But Reggie Drago entering the field, the bottom path. And we have another Reggie Alecki in the top path. But once again, both teams denying themselves of more experience. Another skirmish going on. Vin going to use that Unite move onto the Latias. A flame sweep for Ranma. Can they make it away here? No. Shadow Sneak is tagging them out and tagging them back to the Pokemon Center.
Wow, great job by Vin to be able to get a big power nap coming out, though, for Pure to be able to keep the Miraidon keeping close in time. Don Lux was just absolutely just eviscerated from the map. Latios and Latios working in tandem together. They're pushing away. Meanwhile, Inteleon, Flareon's just looking for a target. Big Unite move does land in a follow-up. My goodness gracious, unfortunately, that was not in the plans for OG, but this is how the Eon twins are able to work together. The way Ranma has been able to keep Pure just trapped up here, and Reggie going in themselves. They don't want to get taken out, though. 193, 1 minute remains, Draku, before the big Groudon lands on Sky Ruins.
Would love to take a breath here, but it looks like CACM is about to go in on the offense once again. Frank has a lot of those Eon stacks as the Bright Feature Meteor Store comes raining down from the heavens. It's going to send Spinal scattering here. Our Charge Beam ripping through. OG just can't stay on the battlefield. 8 on the goal zone. A really nice snipe shot from way downtown lands onto Reggie. It's going to send them to less than 25% and get to knock out their Crustle back to the Pokemon Center.
That was deep.
Another
that was a shot from very deep, and Flareon's is just getting it on. The snipe shots have been impeccable. They're going to go ahead and say, hey, we don't need to fight this off. They're only going to get a 12 over cap with this. Positioning has been the priority for CACM. They're already in the pit. Kind of like what you said, OG has not been able to stay on the map for very long, and it's time to go. Inteleon already getting some shots off, and it's time to get it on, Draku.
Flareon's is locked in. Showtime. Gonna open up the field here, followed by a power nap from the Snorlax. Grab that Pokeflute to wake them up. It might be an Eon Blast, and here comes the Azure Spy Vision, and immediately on the ground on Zero. Who's gonna be able to get this? I think it is CMC Sports. Can they get this? Scores in, though. Lots of members going down, and an early surrender by Spinal.
Oh, wow. There was no moment to breathe throughout that entire match. It was just back and forth between these two teams, and it really felt like CACM just had the advantage. It really felt like Spinal was trying to make something happen. We saw the Aura Cannon come on out, but the moment Pure fell, it really became a flip of a coin, but it did look like CACM just had everything. The damage, they had the presence, and of course they had Reggie just in case, but I do believe it might have been Ranma who was able to get the final hit and get the secure. And then from there, as you said, when those stacks go really well for Latios, the damage is absolutely insane. And especially with the Groudon buff, oh boy, that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah, a lot of damage. And they unfortunately just couldn't get to the Latios twins. I mean, like 32,000 damage on Latios, 70,000 damage. Your damage leader of the game, just looking at the damage numbers, 69,000 for the Miraidon. Nice number there. But yeah, once they get those Eon stacks up, if you're not KOing this Latios quickly and swiftly, it will just burst you down, right? Once you get that Dragon Pulse online, it's a very difficult Pokemon to KO.
Yeah, very difficult Pokemon to KO indeed, but a great job by both of these teams. This does present a little bit of a problem, though, because this also does mean that Spinal is on the verge of being eliminated. As a reminder, if you're just tuning in, this is the Grand Finals best of 5, where CACM now holds a 2-0 lead over Spinal. I think the choices were fine. It just felt like, specifically for me, OG was just never able to stay on the field too long. not having that extra bulk that it might have. Mega Lucario is great, but it's very glass cannon-y. It can go in, do a tons of damage, but if you don't get that close combat combo off, you're not going to be regenerating enough HP. And if you don't have a dedicated healer by your side, which JL wasn't, that's going to leave a big wide open, and your weaknesses will be exposed.
Without any traditional healer, just pivoting off of or piggybacking off what you were saying, those twins just do so much damage. They do have secondary healing, right? Close combat has some healing if you're able to land it onto multiple targets. But if there's one thing that this team's EACM is probably not going to be doing is standing next to each other, right? The attacker is obviously not going to be standing next to each other. The Talonflame is going to be in some sort of ambush position. You can maybe get multi-hits on the Crustle and maybe one of the other attackers, but for the most part, these Pokemon are kiting in and around the enemy team, but also kind of around each other so that the other enemy team Spinal is not taking advantage of the multi-hitting, life-stealing abilities that they have.
Right, exactly. I mean, when you look at the composition again and realize that they had Latios and Miraidon. I mean, Latias is classified as a supporter, but it also works kind of like an attacker. Lucario was really only going to be able to catch up in distance to maybe the defender, the Crustle, because Talonflame was just going to be not near you, and it's just going to jump on you sporadically, so you never really could plan a counterattack. Meanwhile, you're just going to get kited by the extremely long reach of Don Lux's Miraidon, and the moment Latios are working together, I mean, there's no way OG was able to do it. The reason the all-arounder worked for Vin Diesel is the fact that Mimikyu had the Shadow Sneak. It kind of closes the gap a little bit to be able to do a lot of damage.
Interestingly enough, I feel like this composition that CACM Esports put together, it's not only just obviously they have the twins on their team, but they also have really good supportive tools around it. I think Crustle is probably the most difficult defender for these twins to deal with, right? When you're using your Dragon Pulse specifically for Latios, you're usually dashing forward. And a lot of times when this Pokemon was released, teams would counterpick with a Crustle because they'll wait for the Latios to dash forward to get that boosted auto empowered ability ready to go, and then boosted auto, right? They'll wait for that to happen and then they'll Rock Tomb it, right? So they're already using one of their tools to dash forward to get their boosted auto available. Now that they have the Crustle on their side of the field, you're basically just leaving the entire field open for the Latios to move around.
Yeah, there's no way to really capture it. There's no heavy dive other than Vin Diesel. Something like this, when you look at this, I mean, Leafeon comes to mind because it's able to get behind enemy lines, be the Emerald two-step, just doing a combo with Razor Leaf and Aerial Ace. You could get a lot done, but it didn't really feel like Spinal had that available, especially just later on in the draft. I do like the Mimikyu pick. Everything, I think just the biggest weakness that Spinal had was having not enough range, and Flareon's just kind of had to take on all of the range on himself. Meanwhile, CACM had just a plethora of ranged attackers, so they were able to kite things. And like you said, the Rock Tomb would have been a good counter to stop the Latios, but when you have the Crustle, you're slowing down the enemy team, so your Latios can be destructive.
Yeah, I mean, you also have Miraidon first pick on their side too. I think if there's one thing that could potentially counter both Miraidon in the early side and potentially if they decide to go for Latios in the later half of the game, picking something like a Venusaur or like no bias intended, but like Decidueye would do pretty well here too, just because you have the range to counter these two attackers, but also to pierce through any sort of front line, right? Inteleon is great. Flareon's one of the best Inteleon players in the world, but you also just have to shoot through them in order to hit the Pokemon in the backline. Whereas if you're using a Venus or Solar Beam or a Spirit Shackle Decidueye, you don't have to worry about that. Just aim at that Pokemon, and if it hits them, if it gets to them, it will hit them, right? You don't have to worry about shooting in and around a Crustle or a Latios.
Right, that's one of the big advantages of Decidueye. The problem is, like, Decidueye doesn't have the greatest movement in the world, and Inteleon can get a little bit away with it with the Fell Stinger. But I do agree with you 100% that a Spirit Shackle Decidueye or a Venusaur, you can just aim, fire, and there won't be anything kind of intruding, especially when it comes to converging and securing an objective. That's when it really becomes important. That being said, Reggie immediately, once again, going to be picking up the Talonflame, and it looks like JL is going to be taking one of the key pieces away. No, Flareon's taking away the Miraidon. We have seen Flareon's on the Miraidon before. Two key pieces for CACM's success taken away.
not only taken away, but also banned out. And they're once again trying to target Reggie. Talonflame coming out to play first. Texas pulling out the duck from the south. But Ranma, let's see what they decide to go with here. Maybe going in for the Snorlax. So both teams kind of just taking swings at each other. Pure obviously took Snorlax in the last game, and they may be trying to pull out Latios, even if Latios is on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, Latios can still work really well on its own. It's one of those Pokemon that just on its own is fantastic. OG gonna go once again with the Mega Lucario. Maybe it'll find a little bit more success already seeing with the fact that they don't have big, heavy ranged attackers, but Don Lux, wow, in a power play, decides to say, hey, we did well with attackers. We can quell this Lucario. So they're going to be bringing Latios, and Don Lux is going to be on the Inteleon.
You know, I may be like, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here. This Inteleon, I could see it going liquidation here, honestly. Like,
wow.
Let me cook here a little bit, right? You have these two Pokemon that, like I was saying before, they love to hang out into mid to short range, Mimikyu and this Lucario. There's not really anything you really need to contend with at long distance. I mean, maybe Miraidon, but I feel like you get more value by using your mid-range abilities in Dragon Pulse from Latios and also Liquidation from Inteleon to do so much damage to these two Pokemon. The Miraidon and that other core can't really hang on, especially if a Talonflame is jumping on them from the side. So it's a bold prediction. It's probably not going to happen, but I can see either moveset doing really well for this Inteleon.
Listen, man, you might need to be named a Michelin star chef because you were absolutely cooking, and I can confirm this cooking is delicious.
Oh yeah, you can definitely, indeed. But I love to see Pokemon like Talonflame being high prio picked. It's a speedster that was around since literally the early days of Pokemon Unite. I don't remember if it was in the original roster. I think it was.
I think it was. Yeah, Talonflame. Yeah, it was. It had to be the
first release ever. It was released on, I guess, the official day. I don't know
right.
That entails to being an original cast, but yeah, Talonflame is a really strong Pokemon. Honestly, I think with Pokemon like Dodrio kind of falling out in favor times in like the last 10 balance matches. But yeah, Talonflame really strong, has a lot of visibility, does a lot of damage. But here we go, Spinal with their backs against the wall, 2-0 going over to Cacm Esports in a best of 5 in our grand final.
This is where it all comes down. I don't need to pull up the improbable, but the impossible can happen sometimes. It happens in sports, it happens in regular sports, but at the end of the day, Vital needs to bring their A game. There is nowhere else to go. Cacm, though, riding their coattails on the winds of victory. OG going to try to confirm as much as they can so they can be level 5 a lot quicker this time around.
Yeah, well, Latios unfortunately doesn't have its twin on its side of the field. They have a kind of a flying Pokemon. I mean, it's a duck. It's not a Latios. But, squint your eyes, and they're probably going to say goodnight here for just a second here as they do get KO'd. Heading into the central area, though, we got 2 members of Cacm Esports. We'll get an evolution into the cluster on the bubble, but Flare is getting caught out here. Can Flare save them? They cannot, so they will get a knockout as they pivot down to the bottom path.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt. That is not a position you want to be in. You don't want to give up KOs this early on. Vin has made their way top. Texas might be in a little bit of trouble. They're taking a lot of damage. The Shadow Claw, they get pushed away, but now Frank is here, and now we also see Ranma, though. Luckily, though, OG's gonna try to push him away. Vin's just trying to survive. They get taken down. Reggie's here now, too, to help. JL might be trapped, and they get targeted, too. That is 2 huge members. OG is on an island, but Pure is making their way up. Down, funk you up to try to block.
Yeah, this is not a very good look here for Spinal in this early game. And, arguably they have a lot of really good early game Pokemon. I'm actually looking at them and not a single evolving Pokemon on their side of the field. So this is the time where they should be excelling. Eon stacks nowhere to be found for this Latios. Still level 5 or lower evolutions for this Inteleon. But somehow Cacm Esports have found a couple of very key knockouts on the side of Spinal.
Right now, Pure is just kind of holding things down. The rest of the members of Spinal are here. Reggie's here, not going to even try to opt for it. And that is not a Charge Beam Miraidon at all. That's an Electro Drift Flareon. So they're going to just try to move around as much as they can. Not so much worried about shredding. Knowing that they have attackers, they want to be able to dive on it as much as possible.
You know, with this Pokemon actually going Electro Drift, I like that adaptation a lot. It acts more like a speedster to maybe lock in on these two attackers in the back line. Not a whole lot of crowd control. Crustle, not really known for having a ton of crowd control, can have some huge moments with X-Scissor, but not like consistent crowd control like something like Trevenant or Snorlax, for example. In the top path, we have in kind of all-rounder plane, it's a Latios, and we have a Mega Lucario up there, but 4 members down for either side in the bottom path.
Frank is one heck of a jet, but Don looks able to get a shot on Pure. Pure gets taken out, and there goes the Latias. That's JL. It's just Vin and Flareons. They're trying to get him. Meanwhile, Texas is trying to position, but Vin able to get a very sneaky shadow sneak in. Don Lux is in a little bit of trouble. They get taken out, but Reggie's able to get the comeback KO for themselves. It's Vin versus Reggie, but Reggie's avoiding it away. Reggie Ice is going to be relatively low, and it is going to be leashed back, and the regenerative HP goes back to it, but they're still trying to converge onto it. Meanwhile, OG trying to get behind enemy lines.
Oh, get over here. Oh my goodness. A snipe shot from downtown. You might be the OG, but I am the Dawn, says the Inteleon player. And the Mega Lucario in that Mega Evolution was taken out almost off screen. Reggie's going to pivot up to the top path, get 40 points up there. Will extend their lead by another 40, bringing that up to 82 to 36. And this bottom path continues to be a frontier of battle.
Wow, that is absolutely brutal right now, especially those stacks for Reggie are going to be pivotal. It is Flareons that's able to finally get the Reggie Eyes, but to what avail? These shots from Don Lux are just so on target. They just don't miss. There needs to be a hit rate stat, because right now Don Lux is going to unleash the Azure Spy Vision. Flareons is trying to get behind there, though, trying to make a little bit of a push. Defenses are on. Flareons gets taken down. Points 2 go in. That's 2 KOs for Don. They're looking for more. A big shot onto the Vin Diesel, and JL is also going to be taken down. That is a 3 KO streak for this Latios, or for this Inteleon.
Really tough. I think they really wanted to break this goal zone, especially for these attackers. That is their safe haven. KO streak of 4 for the Dawn. Can we make it a 5 here? Snorlax has a lot of HP, and we'll take a power nap. So unfortunately, probably not a 5 KO for that Inteleon. Here comes the Electro Drift, finds their way onto the Talonflame. Flame Sweep pushing them over to the right side of the field, and here comes Spinal trying to make some room for their team. Here comes the Eon Stacks coming in from the Latias, gets the knockout onto the Talonflame.
Here comes Pure, big heavy slam into the block, now allowing them to get away. Dawn is trying to charge up these shots. Crustle able to get a big KO onto the Flareons, and now the Eon stacks are being used to push them back as Texas and the rest of CACM able to defend this path. This game is a lot closer than we had for game 1. It is 115 to 108.
These bottom goal zones are fragmented. Less than 10, I think, on either side of the field, and less than 10 separates these two teams as we just eclipse the halfway point of the game. And very similar to that top path right after the birds, Cacm Esports will make another push here for the bottom path, but Spinal here for the defend as well. Trying to push forward on the other side is that Miraidon, just getting some scores in on their own. Here comes the Azure Spy Vision once again. They might have the vision this time as they get a couple of KOs once again. Don gets a KO streak of 1, maybe a KO streak of 2 as the Snorlax goes down, and finally a winner in this bottom path, and it is Latam North. 40 points going in for the Latios, will bring their lead to just about 50.
That job by CAMC Esports. They are trying to just win this outright. Reggie Ice, aka the Kyogre buff from Wish.com, as the Reggie unable to get the confirm, but they get the flame sweep, unable to pull anybody, mostly using it as a spatial tactic. But here comes OG, here comes Flareons. Regieleki is trying to find a home, trying to do big old damage. Now the Regieleki goes in, they score 5. Reggie's gonna get there, but JL able to get an overcap of 35. Reggie's in a little bit of trouble, but Dawn is there to try to protect them.
Oh my gosh, can they get away? They do! Oh no! There's the Dragon Pulse, able to get the wisps, the crystals, finding the target. I mean, it's a good amount of experience for the supporter. Level 12, take a look at the Latias on the bottom half of your screen there. One of the highest on their side of the field, KOing a level 13 Talonflame. Vin, almost level 14, and 9.0 separates these two teams. Spinal, once again, just to remind you, their backs are literally against the wall here. They need to win this game or they are going home.
This is where it all comes down. 30 seconds remain before the big, most important objective lands on the Thea Sky Ruins, and CACM wants to lock this baby up, but it does look like Spinal's trying to get some early positioning while Don Lux is just shooting around with the snipe shots, trying to find a target.
He does find a target. It's a fairly big one. There's that Snorlax taking a lot of damage. Oh, caught between a rock and a hard place. They're going to be forced back to their goals on Dragon Cheer just to give them a small shield. They are going to reset 5 seconds, and the Cave of Origin is open, and Groudon enters the fray.
This is all it takes. Positioning, it's a close battle. It is a absolute banger here as 1 point. 1 point. 1 point of Eos is all that distances both of these teams. Meanwhile, Spinal is trying to come in from the choke point of their own. They do send in Pure. Oh, Melora Cannon is unleashed, but the Brave Bird is coming in by Reggie. Groudon's taking a beating. Vin Diesel's already on there. Groudon's living on a sliver, and it's the Crustle! It's the Crustle from CACM. It's Ranma who's able to get the secure. Spinal waves the white flag, and CACM is your INGAGE Ultra Series champions.
They found the origin, and they are now the end. They are your grand finals winners of the INGAGE Ultra Series champion, and not by 1 point, but 3 games to 0. They are above North America and Spinal.
That was an incredible just display. It was Ranma Crustle, the hero. We saw it in Latam from Peru winning the grand finals at the World Championship, and Ranma here is able to lock things up for the side of CACM Esports. It was a 2-0 sweep in winners final, and now it was a 3-0, well, technically a 2-0 sweep again to send Spinal home packing, which does mean Latam North CACM Esports are your champions with an absolute display of just so much prowess.
And mind you, not dropping a single map in day number 2. I wasn't here for day number 1. I didn't see what the bracket was, but they have not lost a single map in today's Ultra Series event. And honestly, MVP for that last one going over to Ranma, as they were able to get the confirmation on the ground on capturing that legendary Pokemon and sending up an immediate white flag up from Spinal. And not only is Scyther being kind of iconic for this region, I think there might be another claw